people always say Chile is possibly the worst place to learn Spanish because they've got their own slang, which I absolutely adore, by the way, because where I'm from, and I'm sure it's the same in Canada or in any country that you go to, everybody's kind of got their own regional slang. But in Chile, they've kind of got like a national kind of slang, their own way of talking. So even if I think I can talk, a lot of the times, especially when we're in group situations, it's very difficult for me to understand what's being said because people talk very fast. But like I say, that's not on Chile or its people. It's down to, it's down to me and for me just to keep pushing and learning. And it's not something I'm giving up on. And it's something like say I'm just hammering at it little by little, every day. But you'll notice a big like if I have a couple of beers with friends that are in Chile, I'll once I start relaxing, it'll then start to naturally kind of flow out. But when I'm in a public situation, I think too much. I literally think too much. I start to think about, okay, it means this, and what does it mean back in English? Okay, if it means this in English, I've then got to translate it back into Spanish, and
Yeah.
I think too much about the verb changes as well. And it's like it should come naturally, but it just doesn't for me personally. It's been quite the journey for me, and yeah.
Yeah, it's a long process. I mean, learning a language is not an easy thing to do, and you have to be really vulnerable as well to put yourself in a situation where you might look silly and make mistakes and not be able to express yourself. Like when I was in Colombia, a lot of the time I really did feel like kind of dumb.
Yeah, that's how I feel. It kind of
Yeah,
takes me back to being at school because that's how I felt back at school. It's like, oh shit, I feel dumb. So when I'm
yeah.
in those situations, I'll beat myself up sometimes on a night time, thinking, fucking, why can't I do this? Like, why, what's actually happening? But I'm just, I'll just keep, you'll get there. Just keep going. Don't give up. You'll get there one day at a time.
Well, and I think it's such a great experience too, because like being in a different country where they speak a different language, you really can't have the same ego that you might have in your native language. Like you really have to start at the bottom, right? Because,
For sure.
you're communicating at the beginning like a kid would communicate, and I think it's a good experience because it offers people more. I think that I realized how difficult it can be to learn another language, and that gave me more empathy for people that are learning English. Like for me, Spanish wasn't my first experience with that. I also learned Filipino or Tagalog before that, so I had some idea like what that was like to learn another language. But I think for people who have never learned a language, it's easy for them to say like, why isn't your English better or whatever? And English native speakers have a bad reputation for like being critical of other people who don't speak English
Yeah.
very well, right?
Well,
And if you look at it, like most English native speakers don't speak another language. So then it's like, well, that's why they're the ones that have the least amount of empathy for other people learning languages,
yeah,
right?
well, and if you're anything like where I'm from in Yorkshire, anyway, we don't speak properly. Anyway, it's like I say, it's all very It's not like the Queen's English. It's very regional.
Like the Chilean Spanish. I mean, you mentioned
Exactly. Well,
that.
exactly. But
Yeah.
that's why that's why I love it though, and to be honest, that's why. Again, this is another reason why I've been able to settle here very very quickly, because the people they kind of remind me like just a Spanish speaking version of like almost in my experience of some of the people like my sort of friends from back up north. Everybody's just like a lot of people are quite chill. I mean, yeah, Chileans can be vocal people, but there's a lot of they love a joke. They love to take the piss out of people. And uh, the I think they're just born resilient as well. They're a country that have been through a lot. They have to cope with national disasters, earthquakes, tsunamis, and political change or whatever it is over the years. They've gone through, like the people have gone through a hell of a lot. And for them to be so sort of chill and humorous as they are, I think it's just, I don't know, credit to their resilience as people. They're really, Yeah, they're just my type of people, and when my friends have been over to visit, they get it. One of my best friends, actually, the one that kind of got left behind in England. I say left behind. He's happily married and he's got his own life. But like I said, two of his closest friends left him at the same time. But he was my best man for my wedding, so he flew over to see me. But he's been over twice now. Twice, I think it's twice, or maybe three. No, twice. Yeah, he's been over on his own, and he's been over with the family, and he's just like, I'm in love. Like, I am in love because everybody was so warm and welcoming. Everybody hugs the shit out of you. It's just like everybody says to me, "Oh, it's because everybody treats you nicely because you're English." And I mean, yes, there might be a fraction of that, but I think if you just give a shit. You're kind with people, you're respectful of the culture, respectful of the people, and show that, then I think you get the same back in return. And I think that Chilean people will do that with anybody. If you come to their country and, you have that kindness and, you show that you make an effort to appreciate the culture and things like that, then they'll open their arms and squeeze you until your head pops, and they'll feed you until you can't eat anymore. And for me, they're just great people, and that's why I felt so at home here. It's like there's no. I can't think honestly now. It used to be the opposite way around, where it was a case of I can't think of anything worse outside of life, outside of my Doncaster. I love my Doncaster. And now I cannot think of anything worse about going back to England. When my wife might bring it up, or maybe people on my social media, would you ever go back to England, or do you think we'd ever move back to England? And at this present moment in time, my answer is pretty much fuck no. No, not a chance. I remember actually the first time that we went back after 6 months. Like I said, my wife surprised me with a flight back to England, so I could see like just a bit of sprinkle of love from my friends back home. And we ended up flying into Manchester. And bearing in mind, I just had like, I don't know, 4 months, 30-degree weather in Santiago, and I now realise how much of a warm weather guy I am since I moved here. I love the hot weather now. But we ended up flying into Manchester, and we flew in June, I think it was. And June is like, summer, supposed to be, supposedly in England. And we ended up flying into Manchester, and it was freezing. It were pissing it down. And I just got off the plane. I was like, nah, like, get me back on that plane. I want to get back to Santiago now. And that was kind of like the first moment as well when I went back. That first time that I went back, even though it was only after 6 months, but that was a big realization of how happy I was uh, back in Chile, because I was so excited to go. Once I'd done my little trip, I was so excited to go back. I just thought, yeah, 100% done the right thing here.
I mean, I almost feel like you couldn't find two areas that are more different. I mean, even just geographically, England is in the north, Chile is as far south as you can go, different continents, different languages. I mean, I would imagine that your day-to-day life living in Santiago is very different than how it was back in England. What would you say like the biggest differences are?
I mean, well, probably now Chile like has pretty much every weather. So like it's got the hottest, in the north, and the coldest in the south. So it pretty much has, almost every weather climate. But where I am in Santiago, it's very hot, and they have long summers, short winters. So, for example, it gets pretty warm here, I would say, from October, late October until, April time. It's pretty hot. So that's a good length of time to have some warm weather. And then it's not necessarily that cold for the rest of them. You might get like a couple of months which are, cold, but it's not as harsh, nowhere near as harsh as the British winter. So the biggest change was, I would probably say, the weather, in terms of the weather I experienced. Now, I could experience exactly the same weather in England if I went a little bit further down south in Chile, where it rains a lot more and the temperatures are a lot low. So they do kind of have some similar climates in certain parts, but where I live in particular, like I said, the biggest difference for me is just the beautiful weather. And although England has some amazing landscapes, 100% there's some, beautiful areas of the UK in England, but I've lost count now how many times I've said holy shit, like in terms of going up and down Chile, and I've only experienced uh like 1%, but like a tiny fraction of the places that I've visited, and it is so beautiful. From like it amazes me, and I still, like I said, I still haven't yet to see. But whatever type of beauty you are after in the world, you can probably find it from at one point from north to south in Chile, and that's just something that you rarely get in any other country. So I think it's continuously like waking up, and I'm surrounded by massive mountains, and like every single day I'll just have little moments, and this has not changed in the 7 years that I've been here. Just have little moments every single day, and I'll just think, wow, I'm lucky to be here. And I look at my son and I think, you just don't know how lucky you are to be in this country.
Uh-huh.
And and it's mad. I know I might have diversed off your question actually, but
No, it's okay.
no, I was going to say it's strange actually, because you get like people commenting from Chile who sometimes say to me, what have you come here for? Like, just in terms of like, how come you've left England to come and live in like a country like ours? And the people that say that have never left the country. And the people, the general, well, what from my perception is the people that leave Chile, go and experience other countries, then appreciate actually their own country a hell of a lot more, because it is amazing. And we talk about maybe like shocks or something like that. It's not that it was a shock, but I couldn't believe how actually developed uh like Chile was in terms. Yes, it's got a strong kind of maybe divide between the country from a financial perspective, or if you want to, I hate using the word class people, but it's just how, I guess, how the world kind of puts it.
Kind of a big
Um,
divide between the rich and the poor.
yeah, there is. And obviously, if you see the poorest places in Chile, then it's no comparison to what you would say the poorest places in the England. It's like, if you live a poor life in England, it's not. It's completely different. It is different. But yeah, I think like if I'd have first said to people that were moving to Chile, they'd have probably thought I was staying in some sort of like mud hut, leaves on top of roofs sort of place, because people they just haven't got a clue. It's not that that's not what I expected, but when I got here, they've like got like just the systems what they've got in terms of the country. Like I said, they've got like the route number, the famous route number what they've got for the country, which is like an identification number, which they use all throughout the country. Everybody's kind of got their own identification card, and this is kind of like your own personal number, which when you go to like the pharmacy, you can use that, and obviously it puts you into a system, but it can also entitle you to like discounts off stuff, and it's just cool how they've got, how far ahead actually they are. And even like they use systems in which England doesn't use in certain parts, and just the whole country. I know, like I said, there is obviously poor parts, and like there is in any country,
Sure.
but it's like the architecture of the buildings, they're absolutely stunning. It's got so many influences as well. It's not just like influences in Chile. Like if you go down south to a place called like Frutillar, I think it's Frutillar. Was it Frutillar or Puerto Varas? I'm getting confused now. I think it was Frutillar, but it's like uh they had German immigrants who like from so many years ago, and all the buildings. Oh, it was like it's like walking through. I felt like I was in a different country. Walking through a different country there in Germany. It's just it really is. It's a stunning place from north to south. It's just amazing. But it's only through like your lack of education that you think it might be, one thing or the other. But then
Sure.
you realize it's actually one of the most, I think, financially strong countries in South America. And it's not shocked me, but I think it surprised me. Like if you think about it from start to finish, like just how good this country is.
I mean, it also goes to show like how little we kind of know about Latin America. I mean, there are so many stereotypes about all of the different countries. Like, for me being in Colombia, we all know the stereotypes about drugs and all that stuff. And we really do kind of limit countries just to like one trope that we think represents them without recognizing that every country is diverse and has all kinds of other things other than whatever
Absolutely.
we might think they're known for. And I suppose, we don't limit that just to Latin America. We say that about other countries as well. Oh, this country is like that or whatever. England is crumpets and tea. We don't go into like the deeper, history of the
No,
country and the
well,
nuance. Yeah, we don't
right.
bother doing that.